Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Pete Ambrose. John Jones. Mary McCullough. Keith Varian. Bill Gerber. Tim Lynch. Eric Newman. Cindy Perham. Heather Dean. Alex Durrell. Robin Orris. Ron Pine. Jen Hochberg. Alice Kelly. Aaron Aaron Lopez. Phil Pierce. Josh Garskoff. Ruth Smay. Carol Way. Jay Walk. Matt Ambrose. Hannah Gale. Pam Jones. Ray Newberger. Tom McCarthy. Mark McDermott. Jill Vergara. Karen Wackerman. Hank Ferentz. Pamela Iacono. Christine Messina. Peter Tallman. Brian Farnan. Drew Georgiadis. Ken Lee. Bill Perugini. Sam Cargill. Paul Fadabine. Michael Hurley. Eric Sunman.
Will you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Will you also remain standing for a moment of silence in memory of Bob Frigo, who was a member of the Affordable Housing Commission who passed away, as well as Sandy Mulligan, a former member of the Board of Education. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I apologize for my voice. I'm getting over a cold. Before we start our regular business tonight, I just want to recognize that this is the final meeting of this RTM term, and we have some members who have elected not to seek re-election, or as I call it, retire. So will those members please rise so we can recognize you? Mary McCullough, John Jones, Ron Pine, Paul Fadabine, and Ken Lee. Thank you all very much for your service to the town of Fairfield. Maybe you'll be back pinch hitting sometime soon. Our first item of business is to consider and act upon the minutes of the regular monthly meeting held on September 25th, 2017. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Dean, seconded by Representative Farnan. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Representative Garskoff.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Josh Garskoff, District 5. Just a minor correction. On the vote over the word evening or night, I voted in favor of the change. So I would like to correct that for the record. Thank you.
Anyone have an issue with making that amendment? Seeing none. Any other changes? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes carry. Thank you. Sorry. To hear a report on the Joint Retirement Investment Board. We heard this in committee. There was no follow-up to my knowledge, so there's nothing to continue this evening. Item number 4. To hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Resolved that in accordance with the request from the town attorney, certain amendments be and hereby are made to the following cell tower leases. Cellco Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless, 3965 Congress Street. T-Mobile Northeast, LLC, 100 Reef Road. Sprint Spectrum Realty Company, LLC, 100 Reef Road. New Singular Wireless PCS, LLC, 100 Reef Road. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Wackerman, seconded by Representative McCarthy. Is there any discussion on this item? Representative Tallman.
Peter Tallman for the Sun. Aye. Is it working? Peter Tallman, District 8. Just for clarification, I guess through you, Madam Moderator, to Mr. Lesser, the increase, I'm reading it as 5% a year. One other way to look at it is 5% per contract, but I think it's 5% a year, so I just wanted to confirm that.
The 5% is, it increases by 5% of the prior year's rent, so it's compounded. It's 5% a year compounded.
Goes up every year 5%?
Yes.
Great, thanks.
Of the past year, so you're compounding.
Right.
It's not off the base.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, any members of the public wish to address this item? Seeing none, back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Item number 5, to hear, consider, and act upon the following appointments to the H. Smith Richardson Clubhouse Building Committee as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Edna Albrecht, Christopher Coates, Craig Curley, Don DiMartino, Frank Geiger, Tamara Guarino, Jeffrey Hendrickson, Kimberly Marshall, Brian Nareau, Hal Schwartz, and Jack Slane. I'm actually going to make a motion to take no action on this item at this time to allow for a presentation. May I have a motion, second to that motion? Representative McCarthy and Representative Farnan. Is there any discussion on this item? Representative Farnan, do you want to speak to the item?
Arnon, District 9. First and foremost, for those that are offering to volunteer their time, thank you. Any concerns we have regarding this motion has nothing to do with them. We're very thankful for their volunteer and their potential service. I think that this is an issue that we're better off handling under the next term for the new RTM. For example, the funding for this is yet to be approved. Also, we really would think it would be useful from a process perspective to have a presentation on this. We don't have a definitive business plan or facility plan, so I think just having some additional details would be helpful. And with the ongoing issues, with the state and the state budget, I feel like there's no need to rush into this, and we could wait to the new term and handle it under that. And I just want to reiterate, this is nothing in any way against the people that are volunteering for this position. Their service is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? Representative Gerber.
Bill Gerber, District 2. I just was looking at the budget over for last year and saw that we made between $400,000 and $640,000 net contribution to the town from H. Smith Richardson Golf Course. So it's about $1.4 million over 3 years. So this is a pretty valuable asset to the town, and having discussed this with some of our with Mr. Tetro, this hasn't been renovated the clubhouse hasn't been renovated in about 50 years. So what we want to make sure that we preserve this very valuable asset for the town. It takes a lot of buildings and a lot of commercial space to get the taxes to equalize what I just grossed up what 640,000 would be. It's about, at our mill rate, it's about a $25 million assessed property. So I think, even though I'm very, very enthusiastic about making sure that this property is kept in good shape and actually leveraged, maybe there's more we can do with it. However, I do agree with Mr. Farnan that this sort of came to us for the committee without a presentation, without a lot of background. So I suspect that everything is going to move forward, but we do need a presentation first.
Is there further discussion on this item? Representative McCarthy.
think it's on. Tom McCarthy, District 7. One comment, I was just a little bit disappointed. I know there was a number of qualified candidates for this committee who were initially on the short list to be selected. A number of them got deselected, and I was a little disappointed that the final cut was the composition of the committee before us is just it could be more bipartisan, and there was a qualified candidates deselected, so that was a matter of disappointment. I'd just like to make note. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this item? Again, the motion is to take no action at this time and to allow time for a presentation. I would just like it reflected in the minutes that I think it would be appropriate if the first selectman and the director of Parks and Recreation wanted to bring this forward to the new RTM at the December meeting, and would just request that it's not done at the November meeting because that's an organizational meeting, and people really need time to adjust to being on the RTM before they get bombarded with a lot of information. So there's nothing to require that. That's just a request and advice of the current moderator and the advice for some incoming or new RTM members. You could bring it back later than December, but I wouldn't bring it back any earlier. I just want to make that recommendation in the reflected in the minutes, please. Representative Gale.
Hi, Hannah Gale, District 6. I just wanted to make clear that one of the things that we were discussing earlier is that we would like to see a presentation from the commission on the current state of the clubhouse and the age of it and all of the facilities. And apparently there was a report made by the Facilities Commission, so we're looking for that to be presented to the Board of Selectmen by the Golf Commission and then also to the Board of Finance.
I think that's a great point, and I would recommend too that the Board of Selectmen pay close attention to what happened at the Board of Finance meeting and the discussion about allocating appropriation for this, the business plan, where it's going. There are a lot of things, in my opinion. It's not just the presentation. For me personally, I'm going to vote in favor of this because we do need a presentation. There are a lot of things that are still need to be vetted and cleared through the Board of Finance before this really reaches the RTM at a building committee level. I know there's a lot of documentation out there, but there's still, I think, a lot of discussion and conversation that needs to be had. Is there any other further discussion on this item? And I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. Seeing none, is there anybody from the audience who wishes to speak to this item? Seeing none, back to the body. All those in favor of taking no action at this time to allow for a presentation signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Thank you. Item number 6. To consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Whereas it is in the best interest of the town of Fairfield to expend a total of $81,258 over a 3-year period on engine maintenance costs on the 33-foot Safe Boat Defender and the 23-foot Safe Boat and replacement of 3 engines on the 33 Safe Boat Defender, $60,994 of said costs to be funded by a grant available under the Federal Department of Homeland Security Port Security Grant Program, PSGP, and a 25% match from the town of Fairfield, $20,314. Now, therefore, be it resolved that First Selectman Michael Tetreault be and hereby is authorized to accept in the name and on behalf of the town of Fairfield a Federal Department of Homeland Security Port Security Grant in the amount of $60,994, and further resolved that the First Selectman is hereby authorized on behalf of the town of Fairfield to sign and execute any and all necessary documents to secure said grant, and further resolved that $81,258 is hereby appropriated to fund such maintenance and purchases. Moved by Representative McDermott, seconded by Representative McCarthy. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak to this? Sir, please come forward and state your name and address. Yes, please.
Doug Jones, 1304 Fairfield Woods Road. I'd like to know where this appropriation would be coming from.
Thank you, but we don't answer questions from the public. We only here to hear comments. Anybody else from the public? Seeing none, back to the body. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Item number 7, to consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Whereas the Board of Selectmen accepted a federally funded 100% reimbursable disaster recovery community development block grant, CDBG-DR, in the sum not to exceed $300,000 in order to undertake a community development block grant disaster recovery tranche 2 project entitled Pine Creek Dike Elevation Planning Project on February 3rd, 2016, and whereas said project is experiencing delays due to co-funder U.S. Army Corps of Engineers' inability to commit to funding 50% of the project cost, and whereas the Connecticut Department of Housing, DOH, has revived the town's request to transfer said grant funds to the Riverside Drive Coastal Resiliency and Flood Mitigation Project and is willing to grant said transfer in the amount of $300,000. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Fairfield is cognizant of the conditions and prerequisites for the state assistance imposed by Part 6 of Chapter 130 of the Connecticut General State Statutes, and that the acceptance by the town of Fairfield of a disaster recovery community development block grant to be used as additional funding for the Riverside Drive Coastal Resiliency and Flood Mitigation Project in the amount not to exceed $300,000 is hereby approved, and further resolved that the first selectman, Michael Tetreault, be and hereby is authorized to accept the name of and on behalf of the town of Fairfield said grant, and further resolved that the first selectman is hereby authorized on behalf of the town of Fairfield to sign and execute any and all necessary documents to secure said grant, and further resolved that an additional $300,000 is hereby appropriated to fund said project. Moved by Representative Wackerman, seconded by Representative Vergara. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Sudman.
Hi, Eric Sunman, District 10. I just want to say I was disappointed that being a member of the Pine Creek and Old Dam community that this project didn't go through, the funding of it, and I just ask that we don't forget about this, or the town shouldn't forget about this, and try to seek more grants in the future for elevating the Pine Creek Dam, or the Old Dam and the Pine Creek area, because a lot of people in the neighborhoods locally there were kind of hoping that we would get some more remediation for flood protection there. So I hope it doesn't get forgotten. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, any members of the public wish to address this item? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item carries. Item number 8, to consider and act upon the following amendments to the Animals Ordinance, Chapter 48 of the Code of the Town of Fairfield, sponsored by Heather Dean, District 3, Jennifer Hochberg, District 4, Philip Pierce, District 4, Brian Farnan, District 9, and Michael Hurley, District 10. Removal of feces required. It shall be unlawful for any person or persons owning, keeping, or having care, custody, or control of any dog to allow or permit such animal to defecate on any private property owned by another person or condominium, common elements, or any town property whatsoever. including but not limited to parks and school grounds, unless such person shall immediately remove all feces so deposited by such animals and dispose of in a proper manner. Exceptions. The provision of this article shall not apply to a guide or service dog assisting a blind, hearing impaired, or mobility impaired or disabled person. Penalties for offenses. Each violation, Chapter 48-1 of this article shall be punishable by a fine of $100. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Dean, is there a second? Representative Durrell, is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, is there anyone from the public who wishes to discuss this? Back to the body. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. I just want to stand here as my last day as your moderator and say thank you. All right, we have one supplemental item on the agenda. Item number 9, to consider and act upon the following resolution recommended by the First Selectman. Resolved, that a certain memorandum of agreement negotiated by and between the Town of Fairfield and the Communication Workers of America, AFL-CIO, ECC, concerning conditions of employment for the period commencing July 1st, 2014, and ending June 30th, 2019, be and hereby is ratified. May I have a motion to approve? Representative Hochberg, seconded by Representative Lee. Is there any discussion on this item? Representative Way.
Carol Way, District 5. Madam Moderator, through you to Mr. Hibson. As I stated at the committee meeting, I had concerns about our contracts being so slow to come to us. We've already had 3 years of this contract that have already expired at the time that it came to us. And while the comment is always being made that, well, a 2% increase is not that much, that's the average, and we should be happy with this, the increase is retroactive over those 3 years that have already passed, and yet the increased amount, and please tell me whether or not I am looking at this accurately, the increased amount to be paid toward insurance is not retroactive. So it stays at the 11% for those 3 years that have already passed. So in essence, it really is more than a 2% increase, if you really take that into consideration, because what was supposed to be paid at an increased rate, we've already had 3 years go by, and it's not retroactive. Only the increase in pay is retroactive. And this has nothing to do with my feelings about the employees that are involved with this contract or anything of that sort. My concern is about our inability, it seems, to be able to put these contract agreements together on time and to really and truly be accurate about what they really and truly are. It is more than a 2% increase when you take into consideration the fact that that is retroactive, but the increase in insurance payments is not. Is that correct? I'm not sure what you're asking, if that's correct. I mean, it does amount then to really a little bit of a larger increase, because what was agreed to in the contract was an increased payment toward insurance that does not come into effect except for the last 2 years of the contract.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hibson.
Good evening, Emmett Hibson, Director of Human Resources. I wouldn't agree that it amounts to more than a 2%. I believe it's a 2%. What happens is that you don't have a reduction from the 2%, which is what the increased cost shares would do for in any year where an increase is given and there's a reduction. So I believe it's still a 2% because they're not getting more than that, but they're not getting any offset to that 2%.
It's a matter of semantics then, basically. I guess that's how I would see it, that it is semantics. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Representative McCarthy.
Just to echo Representative Way's comment, this is not the first time this particular issue has come before this body, and the last time we expressed this very same concern, that if we're going to be retroactive with the pay increase, we need to be retroactive with the responsibility towards medical benefits as well. It just absolutely makes sense. Regardless of the duration or how protracted the contract, the negotiation is, which is a separate issue. But last time this happened, we said we did not like it, and we want to make sure that we're being heard here in subsequent negotiations. So we just want to be clear on this point.
Representative Hurley.
Hurley, RTM District 10. Again, great respect for the individuals who work in this area. I just want to make that clear, but I do rise to speak against this labor agreement. I think that each RTM member in this room, as you're sitting and thinking about this issue, I think you really need to ask yourself, are you better off today than you were 2 years ago? Is the town in a better financial position today than it was 2 or 3 years ago? For me, in both of those cases, it's no. Businesses are moving out. Private sector jobs and wages are down or flat. And one of the primary indicators of individuals' wealth is your home value. Home values are down tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think this agreement is too expensive. There is some light, I think, at the end of the tunnel with some of the changes potentially taking place in Hartford as it relates to arbitration. I think that negotiators did try hard. I would like to see them work harder to get a better agreement for the town. And so, you know, I just ask you, as you sit back and decide whether you're going to vote in favor of the labor agreement or no, ask yourself if you think the town is in a better financial position and if it can afford these types of labor agreements. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? Representative Sedman, did you have your... No, okay, sorry. I just wanted to add that I am not in favor of this contract either for many of the reasons that were stated earlier. I do have a problem with the fact that we're giving retro salary increases, but we're not asking for a retro contribution to medical. I think that's an important thing that we need to be having a discussion at the negotiation table. That said, there was commentary made that this particular employee group is rather low paid. And if that's the case, then I think that the administration would be well served to do a salary analysis and figure out how we're paying our people. I personally don't have a problem with a one-time salary adjustment for employees to get them to where they need to be on market rate, but that comes at the expense of contributing market rate for medical. Is there any further discussion on this item? Are there any members of the public who wish to speak? Please step forward and state your name and address for the record. And just to be clear, we only take comments. No questions. Sorry.
Hello. Good evening. A little nervous, so bear with me, please. My name is Kevin Scribola. I am the representative for the Communication Workers of America Local 1103. Just to address a couple of quick points, the 2% raise that we did negotiate started at, I believe it was 2.5%, and was offset by the ability for us to have retro without paying the medical. So if you calculated that 2.5%, it would have been equal to us paying the retro and medical if you do those numbers. But that's just an opinionated statement there. You can look at it and do the numbers yourself. I have something I'd like to read to everybody, and please just bear with me because I am very nervous. Again, good evening. I want to thank the representatives and the First Selectman for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the employees that work in the Emergency Communication Center. Again, my name is Kevin Scribola. I am the business agent from Communication Workers 1103, and I represent the men and women of the Fairfield ECC. I think it's important for everyone here to understand the responsibilities of the Emergency Communication Center and not devalue it or underestimate its importance to the community. We are not telephone operators patching a call through to the next department. We average approximately 250,000 calls a year. Those calls range from serious automobile accidents, where there has been traumatic injuries that our dispatchers triage and provide critical information to the responders on site. We are usually the first person you will have contact with in life or death situations. Just recently, the American Heart Association recognized the role of a 911 dispatcher as a critical link in the chain of survival. In partnership with the caller, who has the opportunity to identify a patient in cardiac arrest, provide the initial level of care by delivering CPR instructions to that caller, and quickly coordinating the level of help. The work done by public safety telecommunicators can make the difference between life or death. We are the voice you hear when a loved one is unconscious and you don't know what to do. We will instruct you on how to keep that person alive until help arrives. We are trained first responders, who make life-saving decisions all the time. We help get you to safety during a fire while waiting for the fire department to arrive. We direct children to safety if there is someone looking to harm them. When you make the decision to call 911, you are usually at your most vulnerable, probably not thinking clearly, and our dispatchers are trained on how to calm you down and extract life-saving information from you. The town of Fairfield has one of the most organized and highly trained public safety telecommunication centers in the state of Connecticut, We have been commended for our work by our police chief, Gary McNamara, our direct supervisor, who is in the audience, Don Smith, on numerous occasions. We have been commended by the Connecticut State Police and even the governor of the state. That is something to be proud of. Just a couple of years back, it was difficult to get a job in our center because it was a career for those that were lucky enough to get hired. Unfortunately, that's changing now, and that's not a good thing. We were forced to make some substantial concessions in our previous contracts that were life-changing for some of our members. We restructured our medical premiums, and for some of our members, their premiums tripled. We also gave up our defined benefit pensions, which was replaced by a defined contribution plan. We changed our retiree benefits as well, and that has caused some employees to move on to other centers. For example, we just spent a year training an employee that was courted by the state police. They offered $10,000 more a year, and it would have taken that member 7 years to achieve that salary in Fairfield. We cannot become a training ground for the state. We want to see our employees remain in Fairfield. It costs taxpayers of this town, Fairfield, approximately $52,000 to train a new dispatcher. If that dispatcher stays for 2 years and finds a new, higher-paying job in another town, that's $52,000 wasted. We have dispatchers that have less than a year on the job and others that have over 30 years and have lived in this town their whole lives. Our shared goal should be one where we create an environment where we can retain employees for their career, a 30-year career. Finally, we are only able to do it if their fair package is offered to our employees, one that consists of a competitive wage and good medical plan, while also being fair to the taxpayers of Fairfield. I believe this contract achieves both. I urge you to approve this contract for all the reasons I've stated, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. We usually don't allow public displays of admiration either, but that's okay. You did a really nice job. You shouldn't have been nervous. Is there any further Is there any further discussion from the public? Seeing none, back to the body. Representative Walk.
Well, here we are again. I just want to start out by saying I'm in favor of this contract. I don't want to dispute with Representative Hurley about some of the things you just said, being that housing market and housing prices are down. I'm not quite understanding that because the condo market is up, because in my condominium, the prices of the condominiums are going up. So, and then the exodus from our town, I'm not quite understanding that. But on the other hand, our Board of Finance and our Board of Selectmen, when you said that in 2 or 3 years, are we better off now than we were 2 or 3 years ago, I think we're okay. I think that the town still has a AAA bond rating. I also think that, yes, we don't know what the state and how much money, well, we sort of know how much money we're going to have to make up from what's going on at the state level. But right now, I don't find that this town is in really bad shape. If condo markets are going up, why are houses going down? I didn't understand that. But anyway, I'm in favor of this contract. I think that these people who do this job do not get paid enough. I think I talked about that with the firemen and the policemen. So I don't know what we're talking about. It's been a fair deal. The contracts have been negotiated. So I'll end it on this, that I want to thank everybody who's a dispatcher who's here to thank you, because I've called you 3 different times on a 911 call, and you guys calmed me down from what was going on in my home. So I want to personally thank you, and I think we should all thank them. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Is there further discussion on this item? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Representative McCarthy, Representative Farnan, put your hand down when I call your name, please. Representative Hurley, Representative Ambrose, Representative Tallman, Representative Varian, Representative Jones, Representative McCullough, Representative Fattabine, and Representative Iacono. And Way, I'm sorry, I'm Representative Way. Did I get everybody? Are there any abstentions? Seeing none. The clerk have a tally. I'm sorry? 11 opposed. 11 opposed. The item carries. Congratulations, you have a contract. Last item of business, there's a flyer here in for sponsor a flag in the Field of Valor for honor of veteran. You can see a Kiwanis member if you're interested in doing that. And with that, is there any other business that needs to come before the body? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Representative McCarthy and Representative Dean. We stand adjourned.